The reason why the 5-star Tingyun might be nihility pet is because she has come closer to death maybe. Because this splash art kinda reminds me of Acheron's light cone, where she has this reflection of herself. Even though it's a bit different in terms of context, it gives the same nihilistic vibe. And it also looks a lot like Ruanmei's light cone, which is also called past self in mirror, which may indicate a connection between Fugue and Ruanmei. I will call her Fugue because I don't know how you need to pronounce this. I think I googled it, it was like a Fugue or something like that. But I will wait with the weird pronunciations, I will just say it how it's spelled out on the screen for me. You know who I mean with Fugue. And I will use this Fugue name until the gacha gods have decided a standardized name for her. So going back, maybe Fugue has a kind of relation with Ruanmei since it literally looks the same as in this cutscene I'm showing you right now, where she's like walking into this wall of reflection of herself. But maybe, who knows, this is just something I found between Acheron and Ruanmei and Fugue, this reflection. No one else has this reflection going on. Well, Lucha and Well also have this reflection in their splash arts, but it's not the same significant type of reflection compared to Acheron and Ruanmei. And another reason why she might be nihility now, Tingyun, is because her name Fugue literally means like, let me Google it for a second. So yeah, like I remembered, it means a loss of awareness of one's identity, often coupled with flight from one's usual environment associated with a certain forms of hysteria and epilepsy. So all we need to know from that is a loss of one's awareness of one's identity, which goes hand in hand with what Tingyun has experienced in her story, since Fantalia has taken over her identity. And Fugue is not Tingyun's name. And I wonder why they have said Fugue, because it gives the same vibe as in with Blade, Silverwolf and Kafka's name. Because Blade's real name is not Blade, it is this other name. And that name was... Yeah, Blade's real name is, for example, Ying Xing. And the reason why Blade's called Blade is because he fights with his blade. That's the name he is called with in the universe, because he is a criminal. So Honkai Star Rail decided to give Tingyun also a name that represents how she identifies now, and that is Fugue, a loss of one's awareness or identity. And I bet Kafka is not Kafka's real name, and Silverwolf is not Silverwolf's real name. So instead of calling Tingyun 5-star Tingyun, I think they just went with Fugue, or it's just literally her real name. That's also possible, who knows. So maybe Honkai Star Rail went with that route, just giving Tingyun the name of what she represents, just like Blade, Kafka and Silverwolf. Even though with Kafka, I don't know what Kafka would represent, but I don't think that's her real name. Maybe it is, who knows. But for sure, Blade is not Blade's real name. And another thing I noticed in this splash art of hers is that she doesn't have this thingy around her leg, because many characters have this thing around their right or left leg, I don't know. But she doesn't have it. And another thing that I find interesting is that they say here, yet the brand of destruction still rides with anticipation. I wonder what they mean with the brand of destruction, since I would expect they would go into the nihility route with her and not mention destruction. But the Honkai Star Rail lore is so complicated and abstract and symbolic, I can not always make sense of it. And also many people thought that on Natasha's light cone that person was Tingyun. That for some reason she ended up in a Bellabog, and that Natasha was caring for her not knowing who she was. That she was just someone who lost her memories. But I don't think that's the case anymore. And now that Fugue is a fire nihility, she might make dot users good again. And how could she do that? And that is with this equation in the Divergent universe. Because I first thought that maybe Sunday would do this because he's an harmony character. So now maybe Fugue will give that buff, that dots might crit now. And to make sure that dot users don't have to build crit damage, maybe with Fugue her ult could like give the whole team a lot of crit damage, just like how Bronya her ult works. And the effect of now your dots can crit. So maybe now Black Swan and Kafka can now crit with their dots. That would be quite cool. And Fugue is also, I think, the second character in the whole game with a different pet of the same character, which you can use in the same team. So just like Dong Heng and Imbibitor Lune. But Preservation March 7th and Hunt March 7th, you can't put them in the same team, it's just a pet switch. But in this case, I think it's a real different character with a different pet, as in a playable character, which is also quite interesting. And another cool thing I noticed is that she has this like marks on her shoulder and middle of her chest. So it's like a tattoo, which is also quite beautiful. And this plant on the middle of her abdomen also reminds me a bit of Ranmei's design, because she also has this flower near her abdomen. And those heels also look like a bit like Ranmei's, but Asta also wears those heels. So maybe that's not like a real correlation, just something that caught my eye. And of course her tail has gotten like way bigger and bigger. I don't know, I think it's the same size as the normal 4-star Tingyun, but it's for sure a different color. And it looks like as if these flowers are like growing out of her tail. Nah, not really. Only this one particular flower looks like it's growing out of her tail, but this other one is just coming from the background. And of course we got the 4-star Tingyun in the reflection here. Woe's hair is knotted and Fugue's hair is not knotted. And apart from the critting a dot, I wonder what else they could do with Fugue. Maybe they will give her a unique mechanic. Since she is the second character in the whole game who has the same character but a different pet, was also playable in the same team, just like Dangheng and Immortal Lune, they might give her a unique kit or mechanic, just like Immortal Lune, because Immortal Lune is the only character who can use more than one skill point in a turn. So I expect a unique mechanic with her too, if they want to create a pattern like that. So in which category can we put this drip marketing, aka the splash art, in? Because I made a lot of categories and put all of the characters in their categories. Some characters are of course in more than one category. It is just something I thought was fun, just for looking for patterns in their splash arts. So, the first category, do we have stockings on Fugue? We don't. Are there multiple entities? So, multiple characters or reference to characters. So, for example, if we go to Guinevere, we can see that Su Shang is on the background. And if we go to Harmony MC, we see we have Acheron, Aventurine, Sparkle here. I don't know on whether I would classify this reflection as a different entity, but if you assume like this is Fantalia, then we could potentially put her in that category. So let's put her in that category. Yep, we put her in the category, as you can see. Are her legs crossed, just like Jinglui, Silver Wolf, Topaz, Bronya, as you can see. I wouldn't categorize that as crossing. It is more like in the direction of the spicy one. And that's the pose where one leg is like in this triangular position and the other leg is a bit turned in like this. Just like with the 4-star Tingyun a little bit, Sparkle a little bit, Lingsha too. So I think we can kind of classify that as the spicy one. So let's put her in that too. And if you don't agree, just let me know. And is she wearing a veil? Unfortunately not. Black Swan is the only one with a veil. Does she have a red band on her? So like how Sparkle has it on one leg, how Topaz has it on her hip right here, or Yukong on her hip right here, and Rappa too. She doesn't have it. There's just one flying around here, but it's not on her. So I wouldn't put it in this category. Is she trying to kill us in this splash art? No. So if you look at Mouse, he's literally coming at us in a menacing way. Blade's coming at us in this menacing way. Ruga has knocked this out if you look at from this POV of this boxer. So no, she is not trying to kill us. Are there stairs in this splash art? No, there aren't. Jade has one, Japort has one. Are there plants in her splash art? There is, because there is one big flower here, one flower here a bit cut off. So yes, I category that there are flowers, plants in her splash art, so I can put her in this category too. There she is. And another interesting thing is that this flower looks a bit like the flower at the foot of Immortal Lune, but this one is more like closed up and this one is more opened up. Maybe there are different flowers, I don't know. I don't have a knowledge of flowers. Does she have a tattoo or mark? Yes, she has at her shoulder, middle of her chest right here. So yes, we can say that she has a tattoo or mark. Just like how Akron has on her leg, Fei Xiao has on her back, but it is shown a drip marketing, but I still put it here because we all know she has one. Sui has one on him in the middle of her chest. So yes, we can put Fugue in the tattoo category. Are there like smoke-ish features in her drip marketing? Yes, there are, because we can see in the background there's gas or damp. Maybe it's water, I'm not sure. But it looks a lot like smokish gases. So yes, we can say there are smokish features in her drip marketing. Does she need shoes, just like Yunli and Clara? No, luckily she has heels. Is she like flying or levitating in her drip marketing? She is, just like how Buto is literally falling down here. Yangqing is surfing his swords. Sunday is literally levitating up but being pulled back by the thorns. So yes, we can put her in that category too. Is she in a sitting position? She isn't. Gallagher, for example, is. Hushang is. Yingwan is, but she isn't. Is she in the painful position? In a position like this with the knees? No. Does she have a reflection in her drip marketing? Yes, she has. There is this 4-star Tingyun reflection of her. And Welt also has a small reflection right here. Lucha has a reflection of his head here. But she's the only one with almost a full body reflection. So she can easily go in this category. Does she have like a pet switch? Just like Preservation and Hunt March 7th. Destruction MC, Preservation MC and Harmony MC? No. She is, I think, like a literal different playable character, just like Dong Heng and Lune. So we can put her in that category. And we can put the 4-star Tingyun here in too, of course. Just like this. And it's just a fun thing I do. Trying to look for patterns, group some things. Because why not? It makes me inclined to analyze the drip marketing a bit more. But yeah, apart from that, I really hope she will be OP. They really are trying to milk our pulse in the version 2.7 with Sunday and Fugue. So thank you for your time and see you the next time. Bye.